On today's episode, is Russell Westbrook going to be back for the 2025-26 season? We're going to talk about it here on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thank you, folks, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Nuggets podcast. We love our everydayers here. We're trying to make everydayers a cool thing. On today's episode, very much appreciate our guy Swipa for jumping in on this three-man weave episode. We want to talk about Russell Westbrook. We want to talk about DaRon Holmes. We're trying to figure out why the Nuggets haven't hired a general manager or a president of basketball operations yet. Some very odd things going on. But first, wanted to start with this. Russell Westbrook has a player option for the 2025-26 season. On the last episode, Matt, you made a very interesting comment, and I think you're standing on this take that Russell Westbrook will be the best he has been as a Denver Nugget next year. Care to expand upon that?
No, sir. No, not as Denver Nugget. No. He will have the best season from an impact standpoint that he has had since he left Oklahoma City. His impact numbers will be the best that they have been. This will be the best season by far that he has had since he left Oklahoma City. He will not be that version of Russ. It will be a different version of Russ, but it will be a version of Russ that is even better at shooting corner threes, that is even better at setting up teammates, that has better chemistry with everybody, that makes the bench unit a little bit better, is able to get better chemistry with some of their guys, that has good chemistry with DaRon Holmes, who we'll talk about later on. It's going to be a phenomenal season from Russell Westbrook if he returns, because I did talk to some folks after, and I have to put a big if after talking to some folks after we talked about it.
Swipe, but there was a rumor about like Macabi Tel Aviv, like making a big run, and some of these other like international teams making a run at Russ. I didn't ever really consider that as an option until I had heard it again earlier this week. That's not really something that Nuggets should be concerned about, right?
No. I personally don't think that that should be of their concern at all. I think that I think he played a very valuable role for the team last year, and I think he did some really amazing things. If you all remember, I definitely asked, I thought Russ would be a good fit on the team, and I believe he was for a large stretch of the year. And I think he, especially I don't want to bring up the contract stuff because I know it's kind of a little bit of a played out point, but I think for someone to be that much of an engine off the bench and as a starter and replacing either Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., or Aaron Gordon, you don't find that kind of versatility out of a 6'3" player in the league. And for that player to be able to kind of oscillate between being a bench player and being a starter and to have that kind of effect, like my mind goes to the OKC game. What was that? The second game they played? I think he had 29, 6, and 6 in that game. Just a really amazing game for him. He obviously had some really good moments in the Clippers series as well. And Russell Westbrook, the biggest thing about Russ is that when he was playing within himself and he wasn't like turning the ball over and all that, he was really having some really strong moments. There was a stretch though. He was 20 games. He was averaging about 5 turnovers a game, shooting below 40%, really around 35%, below 25% from three. But I think some of that had to do with the injury after the lower body injury he suffered, and then obviously the hand injury in the playoffs. So I think that if he does come back to the Nuggets, just from a culture standpoint, I think the players obviously like being around him. They like Russ a lot. I mean, Russ is obviously one of the all-time great players that's ever played in the NBA. So it would be really good to have him back as well. But I also can't see a reality where Russ gets a boost, gets more money somewhere else, and then the Nuggets decide they want to take another directional step as well.
Not the only European team, by the way, that apparently has come sniffing. So he's gonna there is skepticism within the Nuggets organization that he will leave the NBA, but there is an expectation. The expectation from folks I talked to is he's gonna opt out, and whether that's to return on a better deal or if he maybe the market, maybe there is another team that's like, no, man, like he was good for Denver. He could be good for us. And that's the case. And he's open to leaving and going to that city. He would, I know he'd rather be in LA for a number of reasons, but that's not going to happen because he's burned bridges with both Clippers and Lakers. So that's not going to happen. I don't think Warriors would do it for a number of reasons. And then I don't know if he would want to go sack. That's not out of the question, I suppose. But I do think that like I would put it probably 60% he stays Nuggets, 30% leaves for another team, 10% goes overseas is how I would rate it.
That's an interesting breakdown. And like it's one of those things that you don't ever fully consider as an actual possibility until you really start to hear stuff about it. But it is interesting to hear that another European team's kind of come calling here. He's also kind of the guy, and I talked about this on Pickaxe, that like he's also kind of the profile of player as a huge name that is now kind of towards the end of his career in the NBA. That
Stefon Marberry.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams abroad could absolutely like have him and his superstardom and completely justify a deal like that. And he's also just so like he would crush it over there. There's no doubt about it. I do think that he is also one of those guys, kind of like the contract that Dennis Schroeder got with Brooklyn this past year, and also just kind of fitting into a team like Detroit. Russ kind of profiles like that as a, hey, here's a 1-year prove it, make good kind of contract for a team that has an opening. And I could see a Milwaukee do that in the short term. I could see a Dallas do that in the short term. There's a variety of other teams that I'm sure could make that happen.
$12.4 million.
Yeah, or it's like the taxpayer mid-level exception, or for teams that have a non-taxpayer mid-level that their primary options fall through and they decide, we'll just give a 1-year deal here and then kind of get back out on the market next year. It just wouldn't shock me at all if that was something that happened over the course of this stretch. So Denver's going to have some competition, and it's not necessarily a guarantee that Russ is back just because the vibes or the fit was good.
Yeah, and I think if he's gone, if they replace him with Bruce Brown, then great. Okay, cool. But you're still kind of in a deficit there, right? So they'd still be kind of looking for somebody else to take, and maybe that's just where the young guys come in. But I do think that Russ is worth giving another year to. I think I was impressed enough. I thought his playoff run would be honestly a lot worse than it was. Like I thought the playoff were going to be a disaster, like they have been. And I think you were probably with me there, Ryan. And while he definitely had moments that frustrated you and you're never going to be a huge fan of his game.
Yeah.
I do definitely think that probably you begrudgingly we're like, yeah, no, he was good. He had shots that they needed him to make.
Of course. Game 1 of the Clippers series is like the poster child of that. He shot 5 of 17 in that game, and it didn't matter about the 12 shots that he missed. It was about what he was doing on the floor and how he was changing the game, and the shot that he did make in a clutch moment at the end of that fourth quarter in regulation. So I do think that it's 100% something that they have to figure out. Davis asks, what does Bruce Brown do better than Russ? I'm not sure. Like, I think that he's a little bit bigger for one. He's a little bit more versatile. He's somebody who I think like
you're making Swipa his head. He's like a German shepherd with a high pitched noise in the house.
What do you think he does better, Swipa?
Rim running for sure. Better vertical spacer, better slasher. I think he's a better all-around defender, including rim protection, because that's just what Bruce does at 6'4". I think some of this is just about he doesn't have the same level of playmaking chops that Russ has. He's also not going to be like the same kind of like Russ, when he gets in those modes, his scoring, yeah, that one too. Bruce is definitely under more control as well. But Russ, when he gets into those modes, can just start scoring in bunches. Bruce isn't really like that. Bruce is going to kind of give you things incrementally throughout the game. But what he does have, and I think to the point of the under control, I think his floor is higher. I think you know what you're getting from Bruce on a game-by-game basis, and especially in a playoff setting. There's just a level of versatility you get with Bruce without some of the pitfalls of the lack of shot making and all that, because that's not what his game is as contingent on. Go ahead, Matt.
Bruce might make the steal versus Minnesota, he doesn't take the layup, and if he does, he makes it.
It was a dunk. Yeah, that'd be a dunk. And then he also doesn't foul on the 3-point line. So, some of that stuff too. But like I said, that's not
I'm never gonna blame Russ for that foul. I'm always gonna be mad about that foul.
Well, I mean, it's pretty hard close out. But I will say again, he's also not. There's something Russ is just clearly better at him though. So I think for them, Matt, maybe you can please speak to this. I think it's more about fit. I think Bruce has already been here. They've already won with him. They know exactly who he is. He is a backup point guard. He was a backup point guard for Denver. He allows for them to do some of the things they want to do with the defensive wing thing and make it still viable and still work. And on top of that, he's a really good cutter. And that floater, too, is another thing. That intermediate game, the Nuggets didn't have the rim finishing or the intermediate game for a large part of the year in the playoffs. I think that made a big difference.
It'd just be great to have both of them. It would just honestly be great to have both of them. I think the in-between game is very important. The fit, I think, is a big thing here where Russ fits out. And Bruce, at least in Denver, fit in. Like, he was most comfortable here. He was the most comfortable here that he's ever been anywhere, and everyone loved having him and was excited that, like, it was just like a really great fit. Now, it might not be the same next year. Things change, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, Iggy left too, and Iggy came back and they won rings. So let's hope this is
I draw a parallel to Gary Payton II with Golden State. Like, he went to Portland. Obviously, some injury stuff there that obviously made that worse, but immediately came back to Golden State and was immediately good again.
But you do remember Golden State, by allowing Portland to sign him, Golden State saved tens of $1 million by getting him back on the other side too. So that just really 4D chess, basically, I think at the time by Bob Myers. No, that might have been.
It's like when Josh McDaniels signed as the coach of the Broncos. That's some 4D chess there.
Exactly.
All right. When we come back, why have the Denver Nuggets not hired a general manager or a president of basketball operations? Many have this question. We're going to give you the answer next here on Locked On Nuggets.
This show is brought to you by WayFair. There's nothing like stepping into your own outdoor space and feeling like you've escaped into a personal oasis. If you're wanting to update your patio this season, WayFair has made it so easy to turn it into a space that feels like yours, comfortable, stylish, and ready for summer. WayFair has everything you need to level up your outdoor space. Conversation sets, outdoor bars, fire pits. Yes, love a fire pit. Hot tubs, gazebos, and yes, even the perfect string lights to set the vibe. I'm going to get those. I'm getting some string lights. I'm getting them from WayFair. It's happening. It's like giving your backyard that resort feel without the resort price tag. Had a cookout the other night. We did a seafood boil. Found a fish market that gets stuff daily. Did a seafood boil. It was phenomenal. Sitting outside, and a lot of our stuff outside, the stuff for folks to sit in, comes from WayFair. It's all really comfortable. The delivery is going to be fast, free, and totally hassle-free, even with larger items. Don't wait. Make your outdoor space your dream oasis today with WayFair and enjoy it all summer long. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop a huge outdoor selection. That's WayFair.com. Every style, every home. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets.
All right, we are back here on Locked On Nuggets, a little bit topsy-turvy on the video side of things, but thank you so much for tuning into tonight's show. Always appreciate you guys stopping by. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure to go give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That absolutely does help as well. I see we've got a little visitor over with Swipa over there.
Chadwick says hi, Matt and Ron.
Hello, Chadwick. It's nice to see you again. Okay, Matt, you had a really good article earlier today, and effectively intoned that the Denver Nuggets have not done a good enough job here in terms of hiring a general manager or a president of basketball operations in time, and it is now time to do so. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I want to be clear. Like, they might announce one tomorrow. They might announce one, Friday, and I think it's still pretty much okay. But it's time. It's time to go ahead and settle this. And you have people on staff that do not know if they're going to have a job next year. Like, and that's just like all the way up and down the staff. Like, everyone's still very uncertain over a chopper circle. And that's not how you need to run this thing. If you want to get past that, if you want to say, well, it's a tough business and then, we have to do what's best for us. Okay, fine. You got 15 days until the draft, as we were sitting here on Tuesday. 15 days until the NBA draft. It is, you don't have a pick. There is every indication from, you want to talk to me? Fine. Go ask Shams. Get Shams on the phone and ask Shams. Ask Mark Stein. Ask Jake Fisher. Ask Chris Haynes. Get any sort of well-connected person that you want to talk to and ask them, hey, is draft night going to be busy? And see what they say. Because every team is going to be looking to clear the books for the start of the fiscal year so that the summer that they've got the maneuverability they can get. They're going to have to do a lot of this on draft night, as in part because they need whatever draft capital is available in order to make other moves happen. And so you are missing out if you are still going into this with just like, well, we don't really have a pick. We'll see if something comes along. I get it. They're going to say like, well, Ben Tenzer is the interim GM that we have, like, they're in charge. They're not asleep at the wheel. And that's true. Like, everyone that in the front office that was left over is all in there doing their jobs, but they don't know what the future holds. And if you come in, you hire a POBO the week of the draft, do you want him walking in there fresh? Do you want him cleaning house and putting his own people in there 4 days before the draft? Like, it's not that it's not doable. It's that it's bad process. It's time. It's just time. It's great. If they want to hire Tenzer, awesome. Do it. Fine. We thought they were going to do it 2 weeks ago when they hired Adelman. You want to hire a POBO? Great. You're still in conversations about this? That's fine. Make Tenzer the GM that you hire the PO above it, unless they're saying, well, no, if I take the job, I'm going to want to bring in my own GM, in which case, I'm sorry, you're out of time. At some level, this is not the way that this organization needs to handle stuff. I think that KSE, in large degree, does a better job than we give them credit for, because we nitpick on details. Like, we call them out on details, and those details matter to me. But this, to me, is more about take care of your people, get a clear vision, and have stuff set up so you can move forward into draft night, even if you don't have a pick.
Well, can I have a follow-up question, Matt?
Yep.
What do you feel like the motivation is then? What do you think what is the stalemate? What is the waiting period about? Is it a lack of decision making and not wanting to be, make the wrong decision? Or do you feel like they're just trying to wait it out until the flames kind of die down for us just to make an internal hire? What do you feel like the actual reason is for why we have not yet heard who the GM or president is?
How can I describe this? I think there are different parties at the top that have different ideas of what should happen. And I think that that's causing not disagreement and not stalemate, but just like an ongoing, let's talk about it. Let's see who we can talk to and who we can evaluate. What is interesting is if Woj were still around, we would have heard about candidates that they've likely interviewed by now, because Woj had a very close relationship with KSE. They had a personal, great relationship with KSE. As it stands now, I think that there's a little bit of still in the aftermath of Malone and Booth, there is still a little bit of maneuvering going on at higher levels than I am privy to about how certain things are being decided. What's up?
Celebration. Do you think, and this is a more of a, please use your Matt Focals here. Josh Kroenke seems to be the one that is more really in favor of the internal development. We don't have far to go, continuing to build within the house that we've already built. Hired David Adelman. And then obviously hired Calvin Booth after him being here. Obviously, Tim Connelly going to Minnesota Timberwolves. Do you feel there might, speaking to this thing at the top, do you feel like there might be where Josh is trying to work on the in-house thing, continuing to go through the doors that have already been established, Ben Tenzer being the one to follow up, and Balchetis and the rest of them? And then is it perhaps that Stan wants to have a more external viewpoint of like, we need someone that brought in from the outside to kind of rejuvenate what's happening on the inside?
I do not know. I don't know. I will speculate. This is speculation, not reporting. My inclination, Swipa, is kind of the opposite. That I think that Josh is more likely to be somebody that wants more voices in the room and a larger organization. That he wants a more built-out structure that has a few more names and that isn't necessarily as siloed, maybe. And then I think that Stan is probably a little bit more, why do we need all these guys? Why do we need a big structure? Why would we pay for that? Is like where I kind of get to. And I want to be very clear. The Nuggets have been in the luxury tax. They will be in the luxury tax again next season. Running it back is inherently a move towards being in the luxury tax. And Ryan, that's a big deal, honestly. Like they're heading towards the repeater. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's great. It's all well and good that with Nikola Jokic that they are paying for players. Good for them.
No, that because the repeater.
What's the other option, Matt?
The repeater is so devastating. A lot of teams are looking to get entirely out of it. Like I'm not.
But Matt, but even with that, and I think this is a little to Ryan's point, but also to your point about the stalemate on the value of the contracts on Denver. Could they even get out of that luxury tax if they wanted to, based on where the contract evaluations are around the league?
There are probably mechanisms to get them there, but they would be painful and gross. And I think you're going to see some of that, honestly, across the league. Like some of the things that, again, this is speculative, and maybe these things won't happen. Maybe it's all BS and it's just hearsay and it's just rumor mongering. It's entirely possible. Look, this stuff is like, I never really know what to believe. But some of the moves that are being talked about by some of the major teams in this situation are pretty drastic. Like they are not minor. Like they are, oh my God, because that's how severe those penalties are viewed now. And I just think the trick is you got to balance. You have to be fair to KSE for what they've built. They've won championships in multiple sports. Like they've done that. Like they have put together those organizations. They have put together winning cultures and successful franchises. Like this is not a rink-a-dink program. It's those spending restrictions are also part of the conversation. It's just like, it's about where do you want to put your resources? And I will say that consistently, when the team has been in position to contend for multiple levels of playoff success, KSE has been willing to spend. They've been willing to spend for players because that's the most valuable thing.
Yeah, I hear you. I also don't necessarily have a ton of sympathy because they're the ones who gave perhaps overpaid extensions to a couple of different players and have put themselves into this position from a negotiating standpoint.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. One, that was under previous CBAs. Most of them.
One of them.
One of them was one. The other one was
the three other ones were posts.
Yeah, but really, we don't mind the other two. We're really just talking about Zeke. Like that's all we're really talking about. It's just
I'm talking about Jamal too, honestly.
Yeah, but like
it's a large contract.
Keeping Jamal is better than not keeping Jamal.
Well, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, but I 100% replicating that kind of value would be impossible.
Putting him into a lame duck season would have been.
Yeah, no, it would have been bad, and I don't blame them for coming to an agreement, but like they probably could have done better for themselves.
And Matt, I'm sorry, the segment's going a little long, I know, but Matt, this is just very insightful. Do you think the other point of this, if I could put my Brian Williams cap on here, perhaps did they underestimate and did they perhaps make too many improper evaluations around if they're doing the internal development thing and they also are aware of where the CBA is, have they not had the right mind frame around the contracts that they've actually put out to maybe address some of the things that we're talking about? Like, have they just thought a little bit too into the loyalty part of it, or not, and not even just loyalty, but just simply like overvalued the players on their roster? They're paying 52 obviously for Murray a year. Now you're paying 40 a year for MPJ. You're paying 40 a year now for Aaron Gordon, potentially 30 a year, 25 a year for Christian Brown's on the way. do you think that they have perhaps just, with the CBA, they have not grown necessarily with the market that the NBA is now at this current place it's in?
Here's what I'll tell you. I think if you look around, you're not going to find that that's the case, Swipa. I think you'll look around and be like, oh God, like all these other teams are still paying guys what they were, because the whole thing, that's what you're going to see this summer, is the start of a reset. The absence of an amnesty contract set this entire situation up, because these teams do not have, the teams have to decide, hey, you got two choices here. You can pay them what they want for the good players, or you can piss them off, ruin the locker room. They'll demand out, or if there's a free agent, they'll go get it from somewhere else, because other teams still do want that talent. And the market will still kind of be held up that way, but the middle class gets squashed and squashed and squashed and squashed. Like, what the owners want is they want to pay 2 max players and 8 minimum contract guys. That's what they want. And the process over the next couple of seasons is going to be resetting the market values on a lot of these players to where it's no longer like Luka is honestly part of that dynamic. I think you're going to see this with some of the other guys. Like Brandon Ingram is actually the best case. Brandon Ingram on the last CBA is, we just extend him. We'll figure it out later. Great. Like, good player, one most improved, scores 25 a night. He's a bucket. Staff loves him. We're paying him. And now it's, I don't know. We might just trade him to Toronto and then they can extend him, and that's fine. And like, there's going to be a reevaluation of those markets, but understand that there are consequences to each and every one of these things when these players have been expecting one thing and it moves to another. Now they're still going to be fine because it's still the same amount of the BRI, and Hurricane in the comments mentions salaries going up because of the media deal. So like, everybody's going to come out great here, but this decision making, whenever the fans are like, well, why pay him that much? Why not just pay him less? It's just not, I understand why you feel that way, but like, that's just not reality of how this stuff goes.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Really good conversation there. Let's take another break. When we come back, we are going to discuss, did the Nuggets miss out on a couple trades and free agents in this process, and fair expectations for DaRon Holmes next season? We'll be right back here on Locked On Nuggets.
There's nothing like the NBA playoffs. The intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live. And this year's matchups, they've delivered the whole way. If you want in on tickets to the NBA Finals or WNBA, or if you want to catch a Rockets game, or how about a Rapids game? All that stuff. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees. Game Time is a total game changer. Concert season. There's nothing better than Colorado summer concerts. They're incredible. It's such a great experience, and there's so many shows I'm thrilled to go see this summer, and I'm going to be able to get into them day of, because I'm going to get a break on all those deals with Game Time. The NFL schedule release just has dropped. You better believe that you're looking at the fall calendar and picking which games that you want to hit. You want to catch those Broncos games? Best way to do it is with Game Time. You'll find great seats for as low as $100 thanks to exclusive discounts. And with the Game Time guarantee, your tickets are 100% authentic, will arrive on time, and you'll always get the best price with fees included. So what you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets.
All right, back at it. Final segment, Locked On Nuggets. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Really quickly, I just wanted to touch on this. There was one piece that you mentioned in your article from earlier. Quote, agents and executives around the league have expressed uncertainty about who they would reach out to in Denver if a deal were needed. Look, obviously, we got some, I quote tweeted this, got some pushback on it. People are like, Ben Tensor's obviously going to pick up the phone. Yeah, that's not the question here. The question is who is actually going, like who you can say yes to, who's the person that you actually has the decision-making power to make those calls. And so I just wonder if a lot of these conversations that Denver could be having right now, like, are they missing out on some things based off of just not having a general manager of basketball operations?
No, I wouldn't worry about that. I wouldn't worry about that. So the reason I kind of shared that is more, this isn't uncommon in the league. There's a couple of organizations that if you reach out to, that like you will hear this, that we reached out and had a deal with this, and then we talked to this other team and they said they were talking to somebody else in the organization. And that's like common because everybody's got different contacts in these kind of portals, and like everybody works on different stuff. It's not that uncommon. Okay. The point of me kind of adding that in there was more that it has not been like clearly sent out as a clear message. And like the Nuggets will be like, we announced it. We announced that Ben Tenzer is the acting general manager, is the interim general manager. And it's just like, that's not enough. Like if you make it the formal announcement, Ben Tenzer is your general manager. He's head of basketball operations. We do not have a POBO. It's Ben Tenzer. Okay. Everybody knows, right? Right now, I think there's a lot of questions of just like, do I like, and you always have to go to ownership anyway. And that will be another response, I think, from the Nuggets would be like, look, a major deal has to go through ownership anyway. But the process, the day-to-day stuff, I do think there's like a little bit of uncertainty there. But I don't think they're missing out on free agents. I don't think they're missing out on trades. I don't think that stuff is getting dropped because there are enough people in the organization that are picking up phones. And honestly, the other thing I'll say is like, from what I understand, it's not like the phone is buzzing off the counter. So
would also think there's also just a possibility that the Nuggets they just have a deal done with Bruce Brown right now. Like that's also one possibility that has gone through my head. They're like, why do we need a president of basketball operations? Why do we need a general manager right now? We're just going to find this guy.
They may have that in store, but the other part of this is the decisions about other roster spots are not up to them. Sar's not up to them. Russell Westbrook's not up to them. They have player options. So some of this is also they don't have a lot of mobility, and maybe they have talked to Bruce Brown. But I got to say, Ryan, I kind of feel like they better hope Bruce Brown comes, because if not, then I think there's going to be a lot of no draft pick this year. We're going to talk about DaRon Holmes here in a second. A lot of Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett, Hunter Tyson, DaRon Holmes. This is the plan. Come save us. Hopefully Russell Westbrook is back. If he's back, he'll be 37 years old this year at some point in time in the season. And then you'll be relying on an older player to once again to either replicate or be better than what he was this last season. And then just hope that the starters can have even more continuity to get the job done. So again, the grayest timeline possible, the doom gloom timeline possible is that they don't have any development. They don't get anybody in the free agency market. They can't afford it. And so they're stuck and they got to roll into the year. No new draft picks, anything like that. But again, to Matt and to Ryan, I would hope that they would have an agreement with Bruce Brown to bring him to a building, because they do need another NBA player on the roster who's available.
I mean, look, I'll comment on this. Somebody mentioned this, that Bruce was not good since he left.
He hasn't been.
Like you need to be like prepared for that possibility that they do add Bruce and then he's Dario Saric.
No.
Hey, step too far, man.
Yeah, I think there are actual redeemable qualities about Bruce as a player in the last 2 years that I can point to, and also fit. I mean, respectfully, I don't mean that disrespect, but I just said Dario. We had this whole argument about this already. I don't want to bring it up, but I think Bruce very well has a skill set that would absolutely mean a lot for this team. And so, but again, I don't know if it's Bruce, Matt. Like, you know me, I've had players on my brain that I think would be great fits, but I don't know if they actually have the desire or ability to acquire those said players. And so right now, my emphasis as I stand here today as talking about this team is Jalen Pickett, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, DaRon Holmes. That's their future. That's who we know is going to be there. So those players have to get better. Have to. All
right. Let's pivot now real quick. We're running out of time. Actually, do you guys just want to wrap up and then we talk about DaRon Holmes on a later episode?
That's okay. Let's go long today. It's okay.
Okay. DaRon Holmes is in a very unique position as a rookie who, like, we've seen this before where, hey, a rookie misses an entire season. They sit on the sidelines, aren't necessarily a part of all the things.
Blake Griffin.
Well, hey, if he turns out to be Blake Griffin, then that'll be great. I will accept that as an outcome for DaRon Holmes. But no, I struggle to provide like massive expectations for anybody. Like I'm thinking 12 minutes per game. I'm thinking 14 minutes per game. That's kind of where I'm at for somebody like that coming into this team and then not really being a factor in the playoffs. And that's not to say it's not against DaRon Holmes. It's just coming off of a torn Achilles, being a rookie. It's a hard place for anybody to be. Do you guys have higher expectations than that?
But again, I think this is based in any other situation. Matt, I will say it like this. Normal situations in a team that does not have a philosophy of drafting late and that being your resource, that being the anchor of your team. And you have to have those guys hit. That's the way that the Booth era, that's how it was designed. Like these players have to hit because they have to play based on that philosophy. I'm saying you have a higher need for DaRon Holmes in this situation to be good this year, as opposed to maybe other situations where he wouldn't have as much on his plate. But DaRon's going to get playing time. Why? They need a 4. They need a 5. They need someone who offers some rim protection. They need some explosion. They need scoring off the bench, Matt. Like that's who he is. They need something. They need post scoring. They have to find somebody that can ISO and create their own shot at a relatively efficient level. Now, again, I don't know if that's going to be him, but on this team, what I'm saying is Jalen Pickett, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, and DaRon Holmes. That is their bench as of right now. So you tell me, does DaRon Holmes, does he have a place on this team where he has to play well? Well, probably, because they don't really have anything else to look to.
They got DeAndre Jordan. He'll come back.
You are listing needs and basically saying those guys have to, like, that's not how, that's that's just not how the coaching staff's going to build it. You know, like they're going to play.
Who are they going to build it around?
Well, my point here is you use the talent that you have to put them in the positions for them to contribute what they can. You're not going to be like DaRon Holmes. Okay, buddy, it's DaRon Holmes time.
I agree, but then that was Hunter Tyson
20.
time. It's Hunter Tyson time at that point. I think that's where we're getting into like the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, but I just think I'm with Ryan. I also think that he's a little high on the minute side. I think it's going to be less than that. I think they'll have a deeper rotation, but he plays less minutes. And it's going to be like
they're going to have to get some players. Like I just don't believe, like if they bring back most of the same guys, he's going to have to play about 12 to 14 because DeAndre's going to play 10.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what I'll say is I think we're going to see 1 to 2 veteran additions. And 1 to 2 veteran additions that can get playing time gets you to what? 8?
Well, more
9?
than that.
More than that. Because, like, okay, hypothetically, let's say they bring Russ back. You're talking about one other guy?
2 more.
Okay, so you've got
That's
Russ,
8.
2
That's
other
8.
veterans.
Peyton.
You've got Julian. You've got Peyton.
Julian.
Yes. DaRon and Pickett.
And Jalen. That's 11. That's an 11-man rotation.
Yeah, that's a great rotation. They didn't have that last year.
Now, the problem is, like, that's all guards, right? So the question then is, like, okay, what about that? That's kind of the problem with Bruce is you bring Bruce in, and it's Jamal and Christian and Russ and Bruce
and Julian
and Julian
Jalen
and Jalen. 6 guards, right? And Bruce, I think you can play some 3-guard lineups with Bruce.
Yeah,
I think those will be okay.
Of course.
And Christian, especially. Like, those guys can move to the 3, no problem.
Yeah. But it's just kind of interesting. So then from the Bigs perspective, it's like, yeah, it's DaRon and DJ. And that's where, but I think the other veteran they probably add is in the front court.
Is DJ back for sure?
I don't know. I don't know.
So then Hunter Tyson right now is the only other 4 or 5 on the roster of Zeke.
That's why I'm saying I think they were probably going to, like, again, I don't know who, and look, if they whiff on the guys that they want to get, because I think center is going to be I think big man is going to be one of the toughest ones in the market this summer. There's so many teams that are in that, but on the other hand, the team, it's really weird. There's no teams on the market, but there's a bunch of teams that have a bunch of them and are willing to kind of move them. So you might be able to land one of those guys on a discount.
name that I come back to is Larry Nance Jr., by the way. Like, that is the perfect guy to, if you're DaRon, if you could be better than Larry Nance Jr., then you deserve to be in the rotation. If you can't, then at least you have Larry Nance Jr. to kind of help out on a minimum contract and play 12 minutes per game when Jokic sits. That would be the ideal, I think, for Denver. But yeah, there's a lot of different names that we can throw out there eventually. But folks, I think that's probably got to do it. You guys got anything else before we get out of here?
Not now. I'm excited for when they announce a POBO tomorrow. That'd be great.
That'd be great. This would be great listening for everybody, folks.
But no, I mean, I will say, this is part of the conduit. When I talk about the media being a conduit for the fans, like, this is what I mean, is like, I had reason to write that column. We had reason to talk about it, but also people are mad. Like, fans are mad that they're like, what's going on? Like, what's going on? What are you doing? And that lack of transparency is, I think, worth talking about, regardless of what the timeline is.
Completely fair. All right, folks, that is going to do it for today's Locked On Nuggets. Thank you for tuning into the show. Really appreciate the love and support on these podcasts as well. We will be back later this week, whether it's a solo episode or you get Swipa and I on Thursday. Very excited to be back on the grind. Everybody have a great day. Thank you for tuning in on this week's Locked On Nuggets.
This today's 5 days.
Nuggets. Yeah. We do it sometimes.
We do it every day. The whole thing is that we're every